All right, everybody, we are back. We got WEEI's Ryan Hannable with us. Ryan Hannable, the first member of the Fantasy Fullback Dive 3-Timers Club, which is pretty exclusive company, and it is because you're the only one. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good. Do I get like a trophy for this or something?
Yeah, it's in the mail. It's in the mail. You just have to pay for shipping. Anyway, it's great to have you on the show for the third time. We really appreciate it. Sorry we kept you waiting a little bit because the Wolf and I got a little heated talking about the Patriots. So we can't wait to get an actual expert in here to set us straight on some of the stuff we're running our mouths about. First thing I want to do, though, I want to get you started on a follow-up to the hypothetical I laid on you last time. For dedicated Fantasy Fullback Dive listeners, you'll remember I asked Ryan Hannable if he would rather come out as a Bills fan for life or if he would rather take the expected 50-yard line full-blown hit from Marshawn Lynch wearing nothing but an old-timey leather 1930s football helmet. Hannable, in my opinion, wisely said he'd rather be a Bills fan. So my question to you today, sir, is this. Would you rather take the Marshawn Lynch full-on hit, again, with the leather old-timey helmet, or would you rather be the guy that was caught on video, and it's a pretty funny video if you've watched it, and I'm sure you have, stealing Tom Brady's jersey, as well as like Von Miller's helmet from another Super Bowl a while back. But we're just going to deal with Brady's jersey. Would you rather be that guy, or would you rather let Beast Mode line you up once with a leather helmet?
Well, the other one was a tough one. This one's an easy one. I'm taking the hit from Beast Mode. It's pretty easy. If I don't take the hit, my career is over. I mean, I don't think this Mauricio Ortega, or whatever you say this guy's name is ever going to be allowed to cover an NFL game. Probably sporting event for the rest of his career. So
No.
his career is over. So I guess I'll take the hit from Marshawn Lynch. Be on the probably the short-term IR for the first part of the season and then bounce back strong.
Short-term? I don't know about that, Hannable. Have you been lifting or something? Because Beast Mode could be long-term to even permanent. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least a chance. We talked to Grant Cohn from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat on our last podcast, and he basically was like, he would kill me. So I would pretty much do anything. So this is good to know where the line gets drawn. And also, just kind of to go off what you said before, if anybody that lets that guy knowingly into a sporting event that they're having does so at their own risk. I mean, you got to assume any sports memorabilia that's lying around, the guy's going to pick up.
Yeah, he's no more Super Bowls for this guy. I'm sure the NFL has, wanted posters for this guy. He's definitely not getting anywhere.
Yeah, he's
no chance.
That Mexico City game with the Patriots, not a chance.
No, but I guarantee he's going to try to get in. All right. Well, anyway,
that's a fantastic game, by the way. That's the Raiders game, right? Is that Raiders Patriots?
That is, and it actually comes off of the Sunday night game against Denver, so kind of a back-to-back road trip, pretty tough game. So yeah, I agree. One of the better teams in the AFC, and then the Patriots in Mexico City. So that's gonna be a good game.
Awesome.
Can't wait for that one.
All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, and that does sound like an awesome game, and so now we know where you draw the line as far as Beast Mode. The fact that you could say, it was an easy decision to take the Beast Mode hit means, like, I get how seriously you take this jersey theft. Anyway, Wolf, why don't you get us started on the actual interview?
Absolutely. Let's get into the fantasy stuff. And I think what it really needs to start with right now is Brandon Cooks. So the newest toy is here. He's been traded for, and we're finally getting to see him out on the field. So we really just wanted to chat with you. This is probably the most explosive weapon this offense has had since Randy Moss was in town. So everything we've been hearing and seeing so far is nothing but positive, glowing reports. Are you seeing these same things down on the field? What are we seeing out of Brandon Cooks?
I'm seeing the same thing as you're seeing. I mean, again, I preface all my mini camp OTAs, reports with, it is non-contact. You don't know at the full speed they're going at just because it is, May and June. But everything that we've seen on the field is really good. I mean, I looked to one play that we saw last week during mandatory mini camp and 7-on-7 where Brady hit Cooks for a 60-yard touchdown, perfect in stride. So that kind of shows to me that, they'll be taking some shots downfield with him. Obviously, he's known for that, but then also he can line up in the slot and run across the middle of the field. And I would expect the Patriots to sort of use him and all those different routes. But I think most importantly, his biggest threat and his biggest maybe role with the team this year will be those downfield passes.
Yeah, and I've heard reports that those two have been working, Brady and Cooks, off of practice time, building that rapport, that deep ball chemistry. Have you been seeing any of that off to the side, just a lot of extra work? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like all the time, but I will say the last mini camp practice we got to last Thursday, those two spent some time together after practice working on sort of timing routes and that sort of stuff and walked off the field together. So it does show that they are putting in the extra time, and they're probably, we only get to see 3 or 4 OTAs and 3 mini camps. There's other OTAs that we don't see. So there's, a good chance they're putting the extra time at that too. So I would imagine that they're making sure that they're on the same page, because Brandon Cooks is a guy, to me, in the short time we've got to know him, that is into football, and he wants to make sure that he's on the same page as Tom Brady, and he's not going to half-ass it. He's going to make sure he's all in.
Perfect. And last time we talked about Cooks, you set his line at 1050 yards and 7.5 TDs. Are you sticking with that line, or has it adjusted at all since you've been seeing him on the field?
I'm kind of sticking to that. I kind of think that his yardage will be there. His targets might not be up there with some, maybe, I don't know. If I had to guess, I think Edelman might get more targets, but Cooks gets more yards. And the 7.5 touchdowns, I kind of think it's around that. Maybe boost up a little bit, maybe 8.5, but I think it's around the 7 to 8 touchdown range.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
So last time we talked to you, which wasn't that long ago, but seems like it was super long ago, if you look at kind of the state of the Patriots backfield back then, Adrian Peterson had just visited the Pats. I recall you didn't really believe in that as a possibility, and neither did we, and it wasn't. But there was absolutely no clarity on the backfield. Well, now we know who's there. We got Mike Gillislee, came from restricted free agency from the Bills. Rex Burkhead came over from Cincinnati. ESPN Boston has a guy that says Gillislee looks good for the LeGarrette Blount big back role, with James White seizing the third down role with authority. I love those quotes. But there's reports out that suggest Burkhead's been heavily used in both the third down work and red zone also. So obviously there's going to be tons of scoring up for grabs. Big offensive pie with lots of pieces in it. So what's going on, in your opinion, in the backfield? Let's go back by back. Let's go, say, in order from top down on who you think is going to be the most fantasy relevant. Let's say between Gillislee, White, and Burkhead. Am I forgetting anybody, Wolf?
Dion Lewis.
Is
he even there anymore? Who knows? Yeah, let's
I
hit
haven't
him
heard
up.
much from him, but he certainly deserves a mention. So how about those guys top down? Tell us what you think.
All right. Well, I mean, we know that the Patriots' running back situation from a fantasy perspective is pretty much a crapshoot from a game-to-game basis. But I'll give you my best prediction. I think there is something to Gillislee being the LeGarrette Blount replacement. I mean, I kind of think he's the guy that's going to get the most carries in between the tackles and probably the most carries inside the goal line. So I don't think it's going to be an NFL record-setting touchdown season for Gillislee like it was last year for Blount. But he'll probably have the most touchdowns. Then next, I kind of go with James White. He's going to be the third down back. He's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. Those PPR leagues, he's going to be great for it because he's a big part of their third down offense. And I think maybe he'll get a chance to maybe run the ball a little bit more out of the backfield. We haven't really seen that much yet in his career, but showed he could do that a little bit in the Super Bowl. So maybe that'll be added to it. The Rex Burkhead hype, I kind of want to pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Thank you, Hannable.
A lot of the reports last week, I saw them. I mean, I was there. He caught a lot of passes in the 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, but the thing that people don't realize is, it's that these linemen can't sack the quarterback. So a lot of times, Brady and Garoppolo and Brissett are standing in the pocket for 10 seconds and then have the running back just sort of, standing there as a dump-off guy, and he just throws it to it. So a lot of the times those receptions are going to Rex Burkhead, but in reality, they'd be sacks or throwaways in a game. So I don't know. I'm not fully aboard the Rex Burkhead train. And then Dion Lewis, I kind of think you don't really know what you're going to get from him. He could be a guy that gets the majority of the carries one game against a particular defense, but in other games he might get 2 or 3 and a couple passes out of the backfield. So he's sort of a wild card, but if I had to rank them, I'd actually have Dion Lewis ahead of Rex Burkhead.
I appreciate that rank, and I appreciate you saying pump the brakes on Burkhead, because it was great when the Pats picked up Burkhead, listening to the Wolf try to justify, this Burkhead guy. I mean, just anybody that the Pats pick up, the Wolf decides is just going to be like some sort of huge stud. And Thank you for some clarity, Hannable.
That was before Gillislee was signed. So he was the biggest back they had. I thought he might be lined up for the red zone role, where he is. He was pretty good in Cincinnati in the red zone role. I agree. The Briggs have to obviously be pumped now. I have been pumping them. Speaking of Gillislee, though, how many touchdowns? You know, like you said, LeGarrette Blount had 18 last year in that big back role. What do you think of Gillislee? How many is he going to score?
I would probably expect, in that 10 to 12 range, maybe 9 to 12 range, just because of how many times the Patriots get into the red zone. I mean, they get to the red zone probably, most times across the league. So there's just going to be more opportunities. And I think, again, he's going to get the majority of the carries just because he's the biggest back. So I would say, 10's a good estimate at this time of the year.
Yeah, that's a serious numbers. I mean, even
it
10.
Is, and
that's great.
He's been ranked at like the RB. The last time I checked, he was like RB 35 to 38. If you're getting 10 TDs out of the RB 35, those are the joke sites. We have him up at like RB 20, RB 19 in that range, which 10 touchdowns I think justifies it. And I agree with you. Double digits, 12 to. I even said 12, 13. The ceiling for even more. We obviously saw LeGarrette Blount do it. I think he's equally talented, if not better than Blount. So very excited about Mike Gillislee. There are a few more mouths there this year to feed, but very excited about him.
I'm going to ask the third question because I'd really like for the Wolf to be able to hit you with the fourth one because I think there might be some tension on this one.
I'm ready for the fourth one.
Yeah, we'll just gloss over number 3. So obviously we got to talk a little bit about Gronk. How's Gronk looked coming off his third back surgery? Does he look limited at all? And what are your expectations for him based on what you've seen? We had a pretty good argument about this right before we got you on the phone. So what are you seeing out of Gronk so far?
I think, honestly, just him being out there for OTAs and minicamp is a great sign. I mean, you look at him and how many injuries he's had in the offseason, how many surgeries he's had. It's really, honestly, a rarity for him to be out there during these, voluntary sessions just because he is Gronkowski and they want to be extra, precautious with him. So the fact that he's out there and participating, at full strength, being in these 7-on-7 and 11-on-11s is a great sign. So I think that, he's on his way to a great season. And then also I think he might be motivated a little bit by that new contract, the way that they did that with the incentives, that he's going to want to, go all out, make sure he gets the all-pro status to get the highest, figure. I think it's upwards of $12 million. So I think, cross your fingers because you never know what the type of player that he is, that he could suffer another injury like he did last year. But I think he's well on his way to another big year.
You think when he plays, he's going to be a monster, basically?
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of something to him. They might want to be a little bit cautious with the routes that he runs, maybe earlier in the season, maybe not as many, post routes over the middle that, lines him up to get drilled by a safety. But still, you put him in the red zone, match him up with Dwayne Allen on the other side of the field. I think he's going to have a monster year.
All right.
Yeah, he's a bet for a touchdown a game when he's out there. I mean, if he makes it through 16, I'd set the over/under at 14.5.
Okay, what would you set the odds on, Wolf, big talker, on him making it through 16 games? What odds would I have to give you for that? I mean, you can't talk like, if he does 16 games, he's not going to do 16 games.
I'll give him 12 games this year, 12.5.
Okay,
I was actually just going to say that. I would think 12 games and set the over-under at 11.5 touchdowns.
I think that's reasonable on both of your parts. I agree. Go ahead.
Because when he plays, he is a touchdown a game guy, but just the fact that it's a rarity for him to play a whole season. I think 12 games, 3/4 of the year is pretty realistic and pretty good for the Patriots, honestly. As long as they have playoffs.
Well, I think they'll take 12 games out of Gronk and be pretty happy about it. As long as it's like not the first 12. I mean, they'd like to have him in the playoffs, even though they did it without him last time.
Right, exactly.
All right, Wolf, go ahead.
So, yeah, I got to get to number 4 here because last time I was on, you were saying touchdowns in the 30s for Brady, which I still am upset about. I still think it's a complete low ball for a guy who throws 30 touchdowns anyways in any type of offense with any type of weapons. And now you add Brandon Cooks, you have Gronk coming back healthy, plus all the other weapons that he destroyed it with last year with Chris Hogan and Malcolm Mitchell, and obviously Edelman's still there. This is the most stacked cast he's had since 07, maybe even just as stacked as that 07 team when he threw for 50s. So why are you still saying only 30s? And if so, why? Like what is with the low projection?
He's not throwing 40 touchdowns here. There's no way. I mean, you just look at his past numbers. He's only thrown more than 39 touchdowns just once in his career, and that was the 07 season when he threw 50. It's just unrealistic to expect him to throw 40 touchdowns. I mean, just look at the last couple of seasons. In his past 5 years, he hasn't thrown more than 36. So why all of a sudden were he bumped all the way up to over 40?
Because of the new weapons. I mean, Brandon Cooks is single-handedly the best weapon he has had since Randy Moss. Plus, Gronk's back and healthy. He was on pace for 40 last year. If he didn't have the bullshit fucking suspension, he would have easily hit 40 touchdowns last year with a less stacked cast. I'm telling you, 40 is not even enough.
You're ridiculous, man. Because like Hannable is sitting here like using actual numbers, and I mean the fact is like that he's saying like, oh, he's not going to throw 40 touchdowns. You can have a phenomenal season and not throw for 40 touchdowns. Like, just because he's not committing to like, yes, he will shatter every record known to man, you're like, you're crazy. It's so tough to bet on stuff like that, to bet on someone doing something beyond like just great. That's beyond great.
Last year's stats, any fantasy owner knows, last year's stats don't predict this year's. And this is the best cast he's had in his career, maybe ever, if not only that 07 cast beats it. So I'm expecting huge numbers.
Hannable,
I guess you guys aren't. And
I am expecting big numbers. And I think Ryan Hannable is also expecting big numbers. He's just not expecting like ungodly, like once in a lifetime numbers necessarily. And just so you know, Ryan, we made a bet before you came on the air, over under Brady touchdowns. 38.5. I took the under. The Wolf took the over. So we'll see how that plays out.
I would bump that up to 39.5 for me, and I would take the under. But I just think, like you said, you know, he could have, you know, say close to 5,000 passing yards and 39 touchdown passes, and still one of the best seasons, you know, he's had in his career. He just, you don't have to, you know, going over 40 touchdown passes just seems too much. You got to look at the guys they have in the backfield too. I mean, you're going to give some carries around the goal line with Mike Gillislee and Rex Burkhead and all those guys they have in the backfield. It just seems unreasonable to expect them to throw so many times, you know, in the red zone. We saw last year. I mean, they get run happy in the red zone. A lot of times, Josh McDaniels will, you know, run the ball 3 straight plays on the 2-yard line. I just don't think that, you know, the way that they run their offense and sort of want to stay balanced is going to get them to 40 touchdowns.
I don't know. It's just it's a gut feeling, so I'm just going off of it. But I have that feeling they're chasing the record. They're loading up they know it's Brady's last year or two, so they're loading up for him, and they want him to go after those 55 touchdowns.
Thank goodness we got somebody bringing some sanity to the set here, because just dealing with you.
He goes for the record this year. When he goes for the record, sanity's going to look stupid. I can't wait.
Yeah, and you know, if he twists his ankle or runs the ball or anything, I mean, you know, like again, he could have a phenomenally good season and not do what you're suggesting. Anyway, moving on to question number 5. All right, this doesn't matter fantasy-wise. We acknowledge that. But because it's a Patriots season preview and because you've got more inside information than either one of us, what do you think is going to end up happening with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think, honestly, he's going to be the successor to Tom Brady. I think that they had their golden opportunity to trade him this offseason. I mean, they're never going to get the proposals that they got, you know, after this year. I'm sure the Browns gave them 2 first-round picks and a couple second-round picks, maybe even more for Garoppolo, and still the Patriots said no. So I think them not trading him this offseason sort of signifies to me that they're going to do whatever they possibly can to sort of make him the successor of Tom Brady, whenever that might be, because no one knows right now. Then also, I was actually talking with Jimmy Garoppolo's personal quarterback coach, Jeff Christensen, a couple weeks ago around the draft, and he sort of mentioned, you know, hinted a little bit that, you know, Garoppolo might realize how good he has in New England, and him going to another team, he has to sort of, you know, regain the trust of everyone, learn a new offense, learn a new coaching staff, learn a new team, and maybe that's not worth it. I mean, maybe it's worth waiting it out, you know, an extra 2-3 years in New England, knowing that you're in a good situation and knowing that you're in a good position to win when you actually do get a starting job. And then also, say, you know, Garoppolo does want to sign with another team when his contract's up. Say he goes to a team like, just say, for instance, the 49ers, and he sucks for the first 2 years. The GM and coach are going to get impatient. They want to win now. They could release him, and he could be on the streets looking for a team. So I just kind of think that from both sides, it's almost in both sides' best interest to have him stay with the Patriots.
So what does that mean then? Because his contract runs up this year. So how do they work that out? Does he sign a team-friendly extension when he could be making, you know how much money quarterbacks make? Mike Glennon just got like $20 million a year or whatever ridiculous contract he signed. Is Garoppolo truly, with that on the table, is he going to sign a team-friendly deal? Because everything you said makes sense. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that he should be New England's successor, and it makes sense for all those reasons. Do you truly think he's just going to sign for 2 years, team-friendly, let Brady play? What if Brady wants to go for 5 more? Like, what happens in this situation?
Well, I think that is a good point with the money, and you kind of start with, so what they could do is they could franchise him after this year, where he would have no choice but to take the franchise offer and stay with the Patriots. I think that's around $24 million a year, which is, a ton of money to give to a backup quarterback, but we know how important it is to the team to make sure you have, that fallback option in case something happens. So I think that $24 million would be a starting point. They could just put the franchise tag on him for 2018 and then address it again in that offseason, or maybe they look to sign him to a long-term deal. Maybe they use that $24 million as a starting point. Maybe they include a lot of incentives to sort of, say that if he does play, he gets more money. Like he could earn up to $24 million. If he sits on the bench, he doesn't get that much, but still, I bet they would give him enough money to incentivize him to stay. Because, regardless, he can say he wants to play all he wants, but if the Patriots offer him, $18 to $20 million, it's pretty hard to say no to that, knowing how comfortable he is with the Patriots. And also, I also look to their relationship. It's not like Garoppolo hates Brady and can't wait to get away from him. I think that he generally likes him, and they do share the same agent in Don Yee, so I think that plays into it too. I just think that there's more benefit to him staying in New England, even if it does take, 4 or 5 more years.
I agree with you completely.
Do you really think?
I do.
I do. It makes perfect sense. I hope he is, because I love Garoppolo and I do want him to be a successor. I'm skeptical that he gets franchised. Brady's still playing at a high level. I love just playing the what if game. Well, I know it doesn't really matter, but let's say they franchise him. Brady crushes it again for a second season in a row. Yeah. Does he really stay a third year behind Brady? There's just I can't wait to see what happens.
Why not though? Why not? The guy would literally be. So they talk about this in basketball with the Warriors all the time. They've been talking about Klay Thompson, who's kind of been squeezed out now. He's like the 4th option on the team or something. They're like, oh, he's going to go somewhere and command all this money. It's like, why would he do that? Like, he's better on the Warriors than he's going to be somewhere else. Maybe he could score a few more points a game somewhere else. But, there's got to be something to be said for being part of just, a winning culture and a winning organization. There's a lot worse lots in life than for someone like Jimmy Garoppolo to just sit on a gigantic pile of money and be a backup quarterback and eventually, even if it's in 5 years, a starter on just the most winning football program just about ever. It's not a bad gig.
That's what I was just going to say. He's only 25 years old, so let's just say that Brady does play for 5 more years. Garoppolo's 30 years old. He still has, at least 5 more years in his prime. And so I think 5 years with the Patriots is more valuable than, say, 7 or 8 years with a mediocre franchise bouncing around the league just because you don't know. So I think you take the certainty knowing that you're going to have one of the best situations in all of sports, one of the best offensive coordinators in Josh McDaniels, just knowing the facility, knowing how everything works. I just think that that's more valuable than going to another team for an extra, 3 or 4 years, not knowing what's going to happen.
Jimmy's going to be okay. He's going to be okay.
And I'm on both of your sides in the terms of it. I hope it happens, and it makes perfect sense why it could. Something about it, just will the Patriots throw out 18 a year for a backup? Will Jimmy truly accept that? It seems like a dream scenario that I would love as a Patriots fan. I genuinely hope it happens. I don't know if it does though. I
think it's worth it for him. I think it's worth it for them and for him. I really do.
I agree. It doesn't seem like something that I don't know. In my eyes, it doesn't seem realistic. I can't see the Patriots throwing out $20 million a year for a backup quarterback, but I hope they do, because I do love Jimmy and I think he'd be the perfect successor. But it's fascinating. I know it's not even fantasy relevant, but I
could talk about this forever. But ask him the final question. Let's get him out of here on something that's a little bit more fantasy relevant.
What's your record prediction? What do you think of the Patriots this year? What's the final record? Are they going to win the Super Bowl again? What do you think?
I would say they're definitely going to get back to the AFC Championship game, and if I had to guess right now, they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. I'm kind of don't like the whole 15-1, 16-0. I think their schedule is actually more tough. It's more tougher than it was this past year. I kind of think 12-4 is a realistic expectation. They sort of have some sneaky tough games, like we mentioned, the Raiders game in Mexico, coming off the game in Denver. That's a tough one. I look at that actually, the Tampa game on the road on a Thursday night early in the year. That's a sneaky tough game. You never know what happens in the division. It always seems like they lose one game in the division. There's just these random games that they always lose. I mean, it's not anything against the team saying that they're bad or anything. I just think that these things happen. I think there's nothing wrong with going 12-4 and hosting the AFC Championship game.
Again, it's nice to have like a breath of sanity because the Wolves all in on 16-0. So
absolutely,
it's good to hear somebody like, I mean, it's like 12-4 would be totally, that's another. It's just like the Brady throwing 900 touchdowns in a season or something. It's like, they're going to have a great season. They're not going to go 16-0.
I think the only one that does worry me is what you brought up, is that the Denver road game and then into the Mexico City game. That is a very stretch. Two of the best teams in the AFC, if the Broncos can live up to, they have the defense, obviously, if that offense can take any type of step forward. They worry me. Plus then the follow-up with Oakland. That's really the only game I see I see us maybe losing one of those. I still think we're going 16-19.
What about the road situation at the end of the year? 5 out of the last 6 games on the road, and Pittsburgh's in that too, which will be much better, much tougher game than it was last year with Landry Jones. I think
and Martavis Bryant potentially back. That's one of the only other ones. 14-12 is the worst case in my eyes. And I know, again, I'm a delusional Pats homer. I get it, but I don't know. It feels like they've loaded up. They want to finish what they started 10 years ago, actually, to this year. 10-year reunion of that 07 team that just didn't make it all the way. To me, it has that makings of give me that face, Truth. And to me, it's just 19-0. I love it. I think it's going to happen. I genuinely do. But there are some tough stretches. There really are. So if they do it, it's going to be, there's no, you can't say they had an easy schedule or anything like that. There'll be no excuses for why they went 19-0 when they do it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I just think that like I said, their schedule is tougher than it was last year. Would it surprise me if they went 14-2 or 13-3? Absolutely not. I just think 12-4 is the realistic expectation.
The key word there is realistic, and that's what we're looking for on this podcast. Right. So we appreciate it, Ryan. That was awesome.
That's why I bring the realism.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time, though. We do really appreciate it. Some great stuff here with Brandon Cooks, how he's looking. Love discussing that whole Garoppolo situation and the run game. It's still a quagmire, but I think you laid it out pretty well for us. Pumping those brakes on Rex Burkhead. He's somebody that's just getting tons of steam in the fantasy community right now. So I love those little takes about, it's a 10-second drop back when Brady's throwing it to him. People just don't realize that stuff, and they cream in their pants for him. And it's just the realism. Obviously, I needed a dose of it at some points, but I think he brought a lot of good stuff.